I've waited 100 years, and I'd wait a million more for you. Nothing prepared me for the privilege of being yours would do. If I had only felt the warmth within your touch, if I had only seen how you smile when you blush, or how you curl your lip when you concentrate enough, I would have known what I was living for all along.
Happy Tuesday. Welcome back. My name is Rick Alexander and I host the Morning Coffee Podcast. You guys can interact with me at RickAlexander_ and at the Morning Coffee Podcast on Instagram. If you want to share the show on the Morning Coffee page, we really share a lot of anecdotes from the show and we talk about things like that. And then on my page on RickAlexander_, there's actually a lot more original insights and anecdotes, and I'm starting to produce the Instagram TVs. With this podcast, I'm exploring things that have changed my life and kind of asking you questions so you can change your own. And then of course in the Instagram TV, I'm not as exploring as much as I'm more of just like summarizing concepts that have been helpful in my life. So it's a little bit of a different tone, but the idea is the same. I'm always trying to reframe what it is I know and what you know in order to find that kind of original insight that helps you unlock that idea so that you can actually apply it to your own life. So if you're interested in this content, anyway, lots of ways to get involved. Oh, lastly, and if you want to have me speak at your organization, before I do this book tour, I'm looking to speak another 10 or so times to just shore up the talk and work it out. So if you're interested in having me speak at your organization, currently speaking in a lot of leadership type settings, I'd love to come do that as well. So I'm doing a deal right now where I'm comping travel if the talk happens on the East Coast. So today on my way to the office, I was taking a scooter, and I do that quite often. I take the Bird or the Lime scooter, and there's a few spin-offs from those as well. And I'm sure that you guys have seen them all over, well, bigger cities for sure, right? They all are starting to have these scooters, and there's all these companies that are kind of popping up. My question for you is, what are you betting on in life? See, we're all betting on something. What I thought was interesting is the people that started Bird and Lime and these scooters, they're kind of betting that they're going to replace a lot of the traffic that takes place in inner cities. Now, the traffic being transportation like vehicles and bikes, and then also replacing things like walking, because the two aren't necessarily really synergistic, right? Like if you watch people on that are not using these scooters, they actually get really pissed off about them, right? And that's fair, right? Because they're actually zipping like 20 miles an hour down the sidewalk. And so something's actually going to have to give here. The bet that the people that are making these companies are actually betting on, the payoff is that all of these municipalities will actually see the light in it, right? And that people will want to adopt this faster than they won't want to. And so hopefully in doing that, and hopefully that this company can get through their burn rate, all their capital, however they're funded, before enough consumers can decide that they don't want people going 20 miles an hour in their sidewalks, right? And what's interesting is the bet becomes even more complicated because the life of a Bird scooter is only 3 weeks to a month. And so I haven't looked at the profit loss of these things, but I really don't need to know that they're definitely betting on you adopting this form of transportation. And, you know, people like me, I actually have already adopted it. It's like, it's no question. If there's a scooter, I just take it, right? And so that's something to ask yourself. Like, that's the bet that they're making with their business. And you could say anything about business models, but at the end of the day, like the competing ideologies or the competing thing that they're betting on happening is that they will be the predominant mode of transportation in cities, right? And so the question for you to ask is, what is it that you're betting on? I'll give you a hint. If you're listening to this episode and you listen to this show regularly, you know that most of my work is on growth and sort of enlightenment, not enlightenment as the disregarding of religion, like the Enlightenment period, but I mean enlightenment as far as waking up to your own power, your own spiritual journey, like waking up past ego is what I'm talking about. Now, the bet that I'm placing is that waking up is in some way going to be better than asleep. And that's actually not straightforward. And I don't know if you've thought about that, but there's a price to pay for waking up, right? The things that made you feel safe don't make you feel as safe anymore. The belief systems that made you feel safe, they don't limit you, but they also aren't there for your safety anymore. And so you have to recapitulate your ideas about what safety is and what the world is as you begin to wake up and realize that the old programming is no longer serving you anymore. And so the bet is that somehow shaking yourself awake is going to be better in the long run than staying asleep. And it's definitely not obvious that that's the case. I mean, of course, I believe it is the case. It's the bet I'm making as well. But it's definitely worth, it's worth framing your life in a way that helps you understand what it is that you're betting on happening, so that if it actually happens, you're ready for it. Sometimes we stagger into things sort of haphazardly, and we're not sure what the undertaking really involves or what the bet we're making is. You got to figure these things out. Otherwise, you don't know what you're betting on. And the problem with that is that most likely, if you don't know what you're betting on somebody else. You're betting on someone else to do a good job at whatever it is that they do. When you play the stock market, that's the bet that you're making. And so one of the things that I came to as I started to understand the stock market and I started to invest, and I was like, okay, so one of the things that they teach you is you want to invest at first up front in a safer place in something like a growth stock mutual fund where the risk is going to be spread out across multiple companies. And then once you take care of your sort of basic investments from there, especially when you're younger, a larger percentage of your investments can go to riskier things. And I thought, well, what are riskier things? And that's like, instead of spreading it out between multiple companies, that would be betting on one company, or betting on a sector like, let's say, tech, that has a big upside but also has a tendency to go bust, so there's a big risk there. And so I thought, well, okay, so basically what you're saying is I should put some of my money away to be safe, and then the rest I should bet on somebody else to run their company better than I could run mine. And I was like, well, that's not what I'm going to do. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. I know the work that I put in. I know if I'm cooking my books or not. All these things about me, I know. So if I'm going to take a risk on somebody, it's going to be me. And so understanding what it is that I'm betting on in my life actually helped me to refigure out my finances so that they worked for me. So that once I took care of the IRA and some of the safety net stuff, it's like, okay, well, then the rest of this money goes into developing me to become the person that other people bet on. And so we're always betting on something. And so that's what I'd like you to ask yourself today. What are you betting on in life? What are you thinking is going to happen with the moves that you're making? You want to make sure that the payoff is what you actually want it to be if you actually get it. I'm personally betting on the fact that each one of you are so entrenched in the mundane, and you're so sick of looking at things the exact same way that everybody has said to you over and over throughout your entire life, that you're willing to spend 10 or 15 minutes with me every morning in order to reconfigure the way that you look at the world so that you could be more successful in that. That's the bet I'm making with Morning Coffee. I'm also betting that what I'm going to build with Morning Coffee and with the Clarity Academy is an open group of humans that are not afraid to strive for more, regardless of what the imposter syndrome and the prevailing narrative in society says, right? I'm betting that we're going to build such a safe place that people can come in, they can be vulnerable, they can be who they are, they can strive for more, they can grow, and that the ripple effect of that will reverse some of the bullshit that I dealt with growing up in my life. That's the bet that I'm making. But look, also, I bet you guys can guess what I'm going to say next. I love you guys. We'll talk tomorrow on Morning Coffee.
Long hair across the room, baby, she got that glow. I know you see me over here, so dance on me real slow. We've been going for about 2 hours, and I don't even know your name. So baby, please reveal. Your friends are calling you, baby, stay with me instead. I know you're saying that you're tired. There's a little dance in your lip. Even if I go, I still think of you in my bed. Of a good time we had. favorite place. Baby, move a little bit closer, 'cause I wanna feel you, babe. I wanna feel you, babe. Your friends are calling you, baby, stay with me instead. I know you're saying that you're tired, there's a little dance in your lip. Even if I go, I still think of you in my bed. Of a good time, good time, good time we had.
Yeah, that sounds good.